Welcome to Talking Business and Life with Claudio Relsano and Steve Mancini. Claudio and Steve will share their business and life experience to help you grow your business and improve your life. Here's Claudio and Steve.
Good evening and welcome to the Italian Impact broadcast. But wait, Claudio gives me the head nod and says we're not the Italian Impact Weekly. We are talking business and life. And I like to do, actually, Claudio, I do that on purpose now because I know that we're just still doing that transition. It's like people are still saying Twitter, and I feel like we have built this reputation up just too long to just throw it in the bucket. But we are talking business and life. And as always, I have my wonderful co-host, Claudio Relsano. Claudio, say hello.
Hello, and you know what? I'm building up some guest lists for our show, the Talking Business and Life with Steve Mancini and Claudio Relsano. So I'm looking, and Italian guy. So we got to bring in our guest today to kind of offset the Italian thing. Or we may as well call it Italian Impact Weekly.
Listen, I want to interrupt you right there for a second. Do not, if you're Italian and you're tuned in, please don't tune out right now.
Nah.
We're going to make you an offer you can't refuse to stay tuned in. There you go. There's my. Okay, Claudio. Okay, first off, again, we're back, but Happy New Year. We're back to video, so folks have to see me. Now I'm going to do this one time. Because, as you can well see from the last episode, I had my hair fixed. I don't know. I'm very self-conscious on it. It's driving me crazy.
Look good.
Somebody said to me today, they said, "You look so young." I'm like, well, I appreciate that. But, Claudia, we got a great guest today. But before we start, and we're gonna talk with our guest about this one. For the folks in Pittsburgh, there's been some change. And if you listen closely, listen for it. That's the heart's breaking of another playoff first round exit. So, but this time there's going to be change. Claudio, thoughts before we jump into our guest? Because our guest, we may have something to talk about with sports with him too.
A little bit. You know, number one, first thing that hit me is how hard it is to win a championship. I don't care what sport. You know, you get rid of the John Woodens and even the Belichicks. It's hard to win a championship. Dean Smith, considered, some may say, the greatest college basketball coach of all time, other than Wooden. I think he only won 2. So number one, it's hard to win a championship. Number 2, Tomlin stepping down. I was never a fan. Obviously, he had a pretty good fan base over quite a few years, but then they didn't win, and the fans around here expect a lot. So he stepped down. I think it was a good move for him and for the team. I'm curious to see who they're going to get next and really how long is it going to take. I always said this, the Lakers, the Yankees, the Cowboys and the Steelers should never have down seasons because of who they are. You know, they have the money to go out and buy whatever they want, and they just have that brand. That's the standard, not the standard is the standard. I don't even know what the hell that means.
Funny you say that because I was about to mention that. You know, he kept saying the standards.
Which I have no idea what that means.
Well, if you're gonna infer that the standard is greatness and championships, because look, let's be honest,
he's not doing it
exactly. Yeah. But this franchise is stuck in the past. They still think it's 1979. Those days are gone. Let's be honest, Pittsburgh is an average sports team.
Except
the Steelers are average, the Pirates are below average, and the Penguins, I give the Penguins credit because I still think they're barely average, but at least it's a team that says, we're not just going to skate. I mean, look, they got rid of Mike Sullivan last year. Right. Same thing. One of the most winning, coaches, an American coach. 2 Stanley Cups. You could argue, well, he's a great coach. They still fired him because the standard is the standard. And when you're used to winning and you've got all this high caliber talent and you don't win, well, you can only trade so many players before you start looking at the top.
Right. But we do have a championship team in Pittsburgh. There was a parade this year for a championship team, and our guest, who I like a lot, I respect him a ton. He's a good man. Before we talk about what he does, he's a good man, good father, good husband, always been wonderful with me, and I appreciate him a lot. And he's the president of the Riverhounds, and that's Jeff Garner. Jeff, first of all, congratulations. I'll be honest with you. Sure, I was rooting for the Riverhounds. I was rooting for you first.
Thank you.
That's me.
Thank you.
And then when they won, I said, man, I'm so happy for Jeff. So congratulations to you and the organization.
Yeah.
I know the fans were crazy.
Yeah, we certainly appreciate it. Thank you, and Happy New Year. It's great to be here and starting off 2026 in such a positive way. And, we were talking about the Steelers, and that's a tough way to go out from experience. In 23, the Riverhounds won the Players' Shield, best regular season record. Talking about expectations were very high. Got knocked out by an 8 seed in the first round. So I know how it feels. I think we corrected that this year, though, with a championship.
You sure did. But do you agree with what I said, though, before we get into your season? It is hard to win a championship. And in any sport.
That's true. It's hard for me to say. I've won 2 in the last 5 years in the USL Championship. So, I mean, I that's what they say.
All right, thanks, folks, for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Well, besides you, John Wooden, and Belichick.
Right, exactly. There's so many thousands of decisions and details in a year and a season that go into winning a championship, and everything has to go right. Even when things don't go right, you have to find a way to pull yourself up and keep going. And it's really, really difficult. And that's why they mean so much. They mean so much to players and coaches, front office, and certainly, and probably most importantly, the fans.
Yeah. Now, we all watch sports. You had your hands in the soil, as Fran Tarkenton says. How did you feel when you guys won? What was the first thing that hit you?
I think it's sort of joy and pride in Pittsburgh and what we've been able to accomplish. We had a lot of up and downs this year at a number of different levels. And to get into the playoffs, kind of squeak in at the end of the season and go on a run. Keep in mind, we scored 1 goal throughout 4 playoff games. So it was our defense that really got us there. And doesn't that kind of remind you of Pittsburgh and some of the defenses of the Steelers and just sort of that hard-nosed grit work ethic that Pittsburgh's known for? The steel industry has changed. Pittsburgh has changed. It's evolving. It's different, but that part remains. And I think in that moment as we were winning, it was one looking over at Teffy Schellenberger, the winner, who was in tears, and you could see all the blood, sweat, and tears that he had put into this sort of coming to fruition. And then it's really thinking about the city and the pride and joy for all of the fans and how much fun they were having.
I grew up, my parents were from Italy. They liked boxing and soccer. My mom was a huge Giorgio Canaglia fan, right? So she was into soccer. I never did. I was never into it. My uncle in Italy.
I hear you.
My uncle in Italy, crazy about soccer. But, because of you, I was watching the Riverhounds, and obviously because of you, went to some games. And that last, that championship run, riveting. And like when they would miss or they'd make it, as they'd block it, oh my God, it was exciting as hell.
I find more than almost any other sport, and I've worked in just about all of them. I worked in pro baseball, I worked in college sports, so hockey and soccer and football, and Penn State with 110,000 people. Soccer to me is the sport among all of them that the fans control the atmosphere more than anything else. Baseball, you're playing music in between innings, and football, there's a lot of breaks and TV timeouts.
Sure.
Soccer, it's constant. It's always moving. You don't stop and say, hey, everybody get loud, everybody make some noise. And it is, and in Europe, and really the rest of the world, it really is a model for, I think, where American soccer is trying to get to. Mm-hmm. They don't play a lot of music over there because they don't have to, right? The fans are just at a fever pitch the entire game. And we're getting there. Americans are starting to get it, and they're starting to appreciate it. We have a group called the Steel Army that is our supporters group.
I saw them.
It's not quite 5,000 people yet. When it gets to that point, I think that's when we'll be able to, hey, we don't have to play music.
Hey, let me chime in there because I want to ask something because you teed on something, the difference between American fans and European fans. And I watch a lot of European soccer, and I've been watching. In fact, ironically enough, I wasn't sure if I'd like soccer, but I played it for a little bit growing up, and hot minute in high school, the JV, and I enjoyed it. But one thing about American sports fans, and this I'm gonna tie in football and soccer here for a minute. Football's trying to get out of, I think, anyways, and including hockey, I would say, they're trying to get out of the big hit, dirty, grind, physical stuff that you would have seen, kind of timing into your, the grind. What's Pittsburgh football? Mm-hmm. You think, Jack Lambert, Mean Joe Green and those guys. Realistically, that's what you think of. So with that being said, though, now those sports have kind of evolved into high scoring. It's almost like becoming arena football. Hockey's gone down the same path, more penalties, anything impeding the play, it's getting called now because they want the game to go fast and they want a lot of goals. How does soccer, it's the opposite, and it does keep moving. And believe me, I love 45 minutes of uninterrupted sports. Thank you. I don't need any messages. I don't need commercials. I don't need just one more, over under. Just leave me alone. Let me watch the game. Right. That I do like about soccer. But there is a big difference between the high scoring, high action versus it could take, let's be honest, it could take 7 minutes, 8 minutes before you get a decent scoring chance. Do you think that the culture in America is okay with that? Because again, you want you want, arena football and pro football, and you want, constant back and forth in hockey. And then you go to soccer where, hey, listen, it's a possession game, and you hold it until you get to a point where you think you can have a good scoring team. What do you think?
Yeah, I think fans are different in the U.S. than they are globally. I think globally, soccer is a cultural sport. Like, people grow up with it. Their dads grew up with it, right? It's passed down. They sort of build their family life around a certain club and around games. And so I think they appreciate the nuance of good defense or good strategy, and that doesn't always necessarily mean goals. The American fan, like you're talking about, wants action. They want goals. They want home runs. They want, juice balls. They want They want pass interference penalties, and they want long plays. I think that's kind of yet to be seen how soccer develops on that side. I don't know that I guess they could call some more penalties and start to slow things down, but I don't know how they would open the game up necessarily. I would love to see something when you get to overtimes. We have, penalty kick shootouts in the playoffs, but that doesn't happen in the regular season. To me, ending in a tie is really difficult to swallow. Right. I don't like that at all. The excitement at the end of the game, how do you spread that over the whole game? I think that's a good question. That's part of, as soccer develops in the U.S., MLS and USL, we're going to find out.
I was going to chime in on that real quick, because MLS, when that first came into fruition, I was like, ooh, I wonder how this is going to go. Because I still remember reading the article. I think it was L.A. that built the first stadium exclusively for soccer, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember when I went down, I thought, maybe it does have a foothold. Because let's be honest, soccer didn't have a foothold. The irony about soccer was it was so popular everywhere but America. And now I think that toehold is here, where now I think, and because you said something else, now you have a second generation that now the kids have watched a parent who watched soccer. Now it's a little bit more a part of it. That's why I think that foothold is more, it's not a niche anymore. I do think there's a lot of major sporting events, but the thing about soccer, unlike American football, which is trying desperately to export itself, but I don't, they already tried NFL Europe. It didn't work. But now you've got a professional soccer league now in almost every major country in the world, and they're successful. So
yeah, and I think the USL is doing a job because it's starting to fill some of those mid-size and smaller markets, right? It's not just the MLS. Some of this is age, right? Like over 30, right? I'm 47 or 48, something like that, right? You start to forget. I didn't grow up with soccer in the US, right? You had the World Cup every 4 years. The MLS was just starting when I was in college, I think, or late high school. I played soccer when I was really little and switched over. So I didn't grow up with soccer. I didn't grow up, can't wait till Saturday to watch the Premier League. But under 30, they did, right? So we see our crowd skews much younger than what you would see at the other three stadiums. And I think a lot of that is because Messi, right? You see Messi jerseys. It used to be, kids were wearing NBA jerseys. Or
who's that other guy that begins with R?
Ronaldo.
Yeah. I was kidding. I knew it was.
So when you see that sort of younger generation, they're wearing soccer jerseys. It's a fashion statement. They wear it. They've grown up with it. So for us, I think over the next, say, 10, 20, 30 years, as that generation gets older,
and starts having kids,
and especially as football and some of these sports with CT, the participation is down, soccer's up.
And ironically enough, so many kids play soccer, and then at some point I don't know, is it the parents pushing them? Now you're going to go football, baseball. Okay, we're done with that. Now go play the big boy sports. But I do think the concussions, and I think the cost of hockey, all of them, now the stuff comes out about, football, and I think people are going, you know what, how about we just stay with soccer? And I think they see let's be honest, money drives a lot of things, and it does drive kids to determine which sport. I think I'm going to make it pro in that, so I'm going to stay on that. How many guys were drafted into multiple sports? Look at John Denver, for example, but, for what different reasons they choose. I'm sorry, John Elway.
John Elway. I was about to say wrong genre.
Denver, John Elway. But I mean, look at those people that always would choose. What they thought. I don't even know if it was necessarily they thought they were going to be better at it, or if they just thought I was going to make more money at it. But now contracts are going to drive parents to say, hey, you know what? Maybe soccer's not so bad.
I'll tell you what else. Years ago, I was going in 95. I was doing a camp in Cleveland, 94. And not 95. And all I saw were Cleveland Indians pennants and memorabilia all over the place. And that's when they started to win. So when they win, people like them. Yeah, I was doing lessons at this one place at North Park. And I asked them, I said, when the Pirates when they were winning, did you do more business? He said, yeah, as soon as they lose. So I think with the Riverhounds winning a championship, I think they're going to get more interest with kids. Do you agree with that?
We've seen more new season ticket sales at this point for 2026 than we saw all of the previous off season for 2025. Wow. And again, we were coming off of, this was our 8th straight playoff appearance. So that was our 7th straight. So we've created, I think, a lot of success there and a lot of expectation. We were starting to get into that area, though, where playoffs aren't good enough. The standard is a championship. Right. We made some changes, and that resulted in a championship. But yeah, absolutely, without a doubt. I think the other thing about the Riverhounds and the Riveters, our women's team, is we try to, yes, there's a soccer game going on, and we try to make it about the soccer, but outside of the lines, we try to make it about entertainment. Sure. And it's affordable. It's family entertainment. We make it fun. I'd say probably 50 to 60% of the fans that walk out of our stadium after a game probably don't know the score, right? They're there because it's a fun night out. We're not
too many pints of ale.
Exactly. We've got some dollar beer nights mixed in there too. But we've got adult stuff like that. We've got kids events. We've got fireworks post games. We try to do something so every game's a little bit different. We'd have a couple celebrities that have come through and done autographs. Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Jake the Snake Roberts last year was fantastic. So if you want to feel old, be around those guys because they're great entertainers and they're great with fans. But you can tell their bodies are beaten on their knees and hips and but it's just a fun night out and that's what we're going for. And so you know what? If we want to win, but if we're not, if we're having a bad year, if we're struggling, there's still a reason to come to Highmark Stadium and enjoy a night out because it's just fun. It's just a good night.
Two-part question. When did you know this is a special team?
September.
Okay, good.
Right? And you know, the regular season ends at the end of October and we go into the playoffs in November. So, you know, we had a lot of up and down. Now, some of that is the last couple of years we've played and started the season, played on the road quite a bit. And it's because of the weather in Pittsburgh, right? We don't want to play a lot of home games in the spring. It's hard to sell tickets. So to the sporting side's credit, they say we're willing to go on the road and play. And if we can steal some points, you know, while teams are still coming together, that could be a good thing. That worked out in our favor in 23. The last 2 years, we struggled. Until we get home in the summer, and we kind of own the summer. We got a lot of home games, and we typically have gone on runs the last few years, and that's exactly what happened. So as we were coming out of the summer, starting to feel good, by September is where, wait, there's something here. We've got an excellent goalkeeper. Our defense is playing really strong. It's one of the tops in the league. We were struggling scoring goals, and that really never did turn around, but our defense was able to overcome that. Ultimately, we made a coaching change in October. I think there was sort of a lift in energy, which typically happens sometimes in those coaching changes. And there was sort of a new focus and a new energy. And that's kind of what propelled us in. I would say in 21, when I won in Orange County, and last year in Pittsburgh, we didn't have the best team, but we had the hottest team. And that's what won us the championship.
Exactly. Yep. What is your role? I know you're president. What are some of your responsibilities? I know you wear a bunch of different hats.
Yeah, I mean, predominantly I'm on the business side. So I help to set the overall vision for the organization along with Tuffy, our owner. Again, I mentioned we have the Riverhounds and our women's team, the Riveters. We have Highmark Stadium that we own and operate, and we're working on expanding to 15,000 seats. AHN Montour, the sports complex, which we just added some batting cages in, and they're up and running, so I go down there quite a bit. Our academy trains there, so we have over 3,000 kids in our academy now. So I oversee all of it. Now, I will admit I hate to say I'm not a soccer guy because I've been working in pro soccer for 6 years, but I didn't consider myself that. I couldn't tell you what formation would be best or what strategy would be best, or I can't even really look at a player and say that's a great player. We have an excellent sporting staff, and so I will work with them on maybe contract structure or how many spaces and what should we do on the international side and building relationships with some of those. So I don't necessarily, I'm not, sort of trying to pull the strings on the field. Everything else is where I'm trying to.
But again, I think that's good because everybody plays their role.
Sure.
They do what they do, and I think that's good. I think that's one of the reasons why the organization is as great as it is. And there's a lot of organizations that I've seen in baseball that some people are doing jobs that they are not qualified to do, but they do them instead of hiring the right people.
Yeah, sometimes the trick is knowing what you're not good at, right? And then finding people that are better at it. For me, it was really clear. A little bit of the Ted Lasso joke, right? I played college American football. So, all the British guys in the league would kind of give me a hard time. What does this guy know? And I remember I was in Orange County, probably my first couple of games, and I do a starting lineup. And in soccer, teams walk out together in line, and normally they have kids with them or something. I was coming from American football in San Diego. I'm announcing single player by player, WWE style, like fireworks and all that stuff. And these, I thought like entertainment. Let's just make it entertaining. It didn't fit. It didn't fit in soccer. It didn't fit for the fans. The players were like, what are we doing here? So I used to get, sort of ragged on for some of that stuff. But I was able to sort of settle into a spot where we could mix entertainment with soccer and then trust the soccer people to do what they do. And we've been able to put all those pieces together.
All right, we're going to take a quick break and hear from some of our sponsors and from some other people. My book, Lead from the Heart Up, Not the Neck Up, How to Create a Positive Winning Culture on the Field and in the Office. You can get that at ClaudioRelsano.com. Thankfully, it's been all sold out at Amazon, or not Amazon, but Barnes & Noble. And then my show, The Claudio Relsano Show, on ClaudioRelsano.com. I've had such great guests as Mario Andretti, Dick Vermeil, Rocky Blyer, Sid Bream, Jim Rooker, Robin Cole, a bunch of great guests. Sports Corner, hosted by Ralph Williams, every Saturday, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on 1250 AM The Answer, 92.5 FM The Answer, with Ralph Williams, Smoking Jim Frazier, Luther Dupree Jr., and myself. And I'd also like to mention one of my sponsors, Pittsburgh Wealth Management. Mike Battellini, wonderful person, on 1106 Ohio River Boulevard. Call Mike at 412-801-7233. He will definitely set you straight in your retirement. Steve, let's talk about your wonderful documentary.
Absolutely. Folks, if you haven't had a chance, go out and check out StephenManciniProductions.com. I am about to release a second documentary. The first one, Fidelta, Soldier Prisoner, was an international award-winning documentary, and I just got back from Italy in December of last year, where I premiered the next one, Innocenti. The Innocent one talks about the 9 months of German occupation. But again, go out to the website, Stephen Mancini Productions. We'll be releasing that soon. And if you haven't had a chance to see Fidelta, please check it out. It is available on Amazon.
And one more thing, Steve, if you're looking for sponsorship, commercials, definitely connect with Steve at
StephenManciniProductions.com. I love how Claudio throws me out there. All right. Thumbs up. All right, folks. We'll be right back.
Tune in to Sports Corner, hosted by Ralph Williams, along with Claudio Relsano, Smoking Jim Frazier, and Luther Dupree Jr., every Saturday, 2 p.m. to 3 p.m. on 1250 AM The Answer, 92.5 FM The Answer.
Ciao, Chrissy. Your Italian got so much better. Brava.
Grazie. It's because I learned the best way possible.
How so?
Well, I learned that with apps, grammar books, and even YouTube videos, I could only get so far. I had to immerse myself. I noticed I did best when I was in Italy visiting family. That's where my level really soared.
And wow, did it work?
Thanks. I became much more confident, fast. That's why I created Footsteps Through Time. It's an Italian language experience. You don't just take Italian classes, you immerse yourself in a real Italian village. With lots of fun activities and excursions, it's life-changing.
I see. So, no more boring grammar, impersonal apps, just real conversations, real culture, and delicious food, of course.
Exactly. I'm so excited about this. Learn Italian by actually becoming part of the local community for a week and living it. So if you've been dreaming of Italy and the language, check out Footsteps Through Time in Italy.com. Book now and join the experience.
Andiamo!
Thanks to Greater Pittsburgh Travel. For any of your travel needs, let Tom and the team at Greater Pittsburgh Travel know, and they'll take care of you. For more information, call 412-331-2244 or visit their website at www.greaterpittsburghtravel.com. Did your parents or grandparents ever talk about the Vietnam War? The Hardest Year, a love story and letters during the Vietnam War, is an accurate portrayal of what life was like during the 1960s, a time of the draft, equal rights, and the anti-war movement. Follow newlyweds through their letters as they navigate 1 year of the war an ocean apart. The Hardest Year by Carol and William Wagner is available now wherever books are sold. And we want to thank the Calabria Club of Pittsburgh. If you're interested in learning more, you can find their contact information on Facebook at Calabria Club of Pittsburgh. Again, thanks Domenica and the team at the Calabria Club of Pittsburgh for your support. And we want to thank La Scuola d'Italia Galileo Galilei, the only nonprofit school in Pittsburgh endorsed by the Italian Consulate. If you're interested in learning Italian or have your children being immersed in the Italian culture and language, be sure to give them a call at 412-404-7070. And that's La Scuola d'Italia Galileo Galilei. We'd also like to thank Chris Gonzalez from the Knights of Columbus. If you have any questions about joining the Knights of Columbus, reach out to Chris Gonzalez at 412-605-9074.
Tune into the Ralph Williams and Tony Moreno Show every Saturday, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m., and every Sunday, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. on 1250 a.m. The Answer, 92.5 FM The Answer. All right, now, as with with teams and championship teams, there will be some adjustments you have to make. No team stays the same after a championship. There's always people leaving, free agents, trades, retiring players. What adjustments, what things are changing with the Riverhounds already?
I'm glad we're recording this after last Friday when we announced we're bringing back Albert Dikwa. So that's big news in the USL community. Certainly, he was the MVP and Golden Boot winner, scored the most goals in the league in 2023, that Player Shield year. Loves Pittsburgh, great with the fans, definitely a fan favorite. It was tough to lose him in free agency. Rhode Island was starting a new expansion franchise, built a new stadium, spent a lot of money to get him, which is great, good for him. You know, we were competitive, but at the end of the day, sort of lost out to them. So he goes to Rhode Island. We were actually able to bring him back now on a transfer, so he'll be playing for us this year in 2026, and then we signed an extension on top of that. So we expect him to be here the next few years. So hopefully that is a cure for some goal scoring. He scored 22 or 23 goals in 2023. I think our leading goal scorer was 9 or 10 last year. So hopefully that brings some goals. We have really the core of our team back. You know, guys like Robbie Mertz and Danny Griffin have all come back, Jackson Walty, Bradley Sample. There's a number of players, 12 or 13, that are back from that team. Our two biggest losses are probably at goalkeeper. Yeah. Eric Dick, who was goalkeeper of the year 2 years ago and had another great year, went to Indianapolis. He's from Indiana. I think it was, you know, he had talked about going home for a long time, so it was hard to sort of stand in his way there. So he left, and then Sean Suber went to Charleston. Great defender. He was a first-team all-league defender. I think our system, even with a coaching change, I think our system helps make players play the best they can, right? So I think we can plug and play a little bit with some of these players in this system. We've seen it happen before. We've had a lot of good players come through and move on. We've been able to fill that pretty quickly. 8 straight playoff appearances, I think, demonstrate that. And I think that's what we're expecting this year. We actually have more players back this year than I think we've had in any other previous year. So coming out of a championship, certainly the expectation for us is a championship again, right? So we want to go out and win again. And I think we have all those pieces. There's probably another, 5 to 8 guys out there that we're looking at and working with. I think there's a lot of excitement. A lot of people want to come play for a championship and play for a championship team. Our facilities are great. The league is growing. There's a lot of really positive things happening here, which is helping to attract some of that talent to Pittsburgh.
When you're saying all that, yesterday I think it was 51 years that the Steelers won their first Super Bowl. And I remember the announcer asked Chuck Noll about it. What are you going to do now? I said, well, we're going to go back in the office tomorrow and try to win another one. You enjoy it that day. Next day, you're back at it. It sounds like that's what you guys do. You enjoyed the parade, enjoyed everything, but now let's go back at it again.
Yeah, we squeezed, on the business side, we squeezed probably an extra month in December of momentum out of it. Everybody wanted to talk about it, but as the calendar turns and it's 2026, people have moved on. We've moved on the business side. We certainly want to celebrate 2025. We'll do some things at the beginning of the year with a championship banner, and we'll have a ring presentation and some of those things. But really, our attention has turned to 2026. I will say that on the sporting side, we had 48 hours after the championship to exercise options on players, release players, make moves that some teams had almost a month to do previously. So, we went on Saturday, we fly back Sunday. By Monday, teams at AHN Montour, we're meeting with them, we're letting players know who's back, who's not, and immediately start the process of starting to re-sign or sign other players. And so not a lot of time to enjoy it.
Yeah, I want to chime in on something on that because, there, in a lot of ways, there's not a long off season in professional sports anymore. And I think of baseball is a good example of that. The World Series in the boys October. They get maybe a month and a half, but pitchers are all going to be reporting soon. And you're like, wow, we're still in football playoffs, But it's crazy because that's just the way sports are. It's like, what have you done for me lately? Well, I just won yesterday. Yeah, but what have you done for me lately? Like, why? You're right. Move on. But with that being said, though, everybody's trying to win. nobody's like, I mean, with the exception of the Pirates, I mean, everybody's trying to win.
They're trying this year a little bit.
Are they? But I kind of say that jokingly, but not really. No comment.
No, you're right. They've been. I've been hard on them.
But at the end of the day, a lot of most organizations are trying to win. Yeah, the owners want to make money. I get it. I don't fault them for that, but they're trying to win ultimately. That's the measure. The true measure of success of an organization is those banners on the wall. With that being said, though, we talked about it when we came into the show. Only one person's going to win every year. But that doesn't mean the other organizations are necessarily doing something wrong or even something bad. They could be doing everything right, whatever reason. The championship isn't a game. It's a season. It's decisions. It's coaching. What does separate then the champions besides the score? But what separates the championship organizations from those that aren't winning? Because they might not necessarily be making bad decisions either.
If I knew the answers to all of that, I'd write a book and probably be very wealthy and be able to retire. I mean, I think it's a couple things. I think belief is a major part of it, right? You have to get, no matter what the sport is, unless it's an individual sport, you have to get a group of people to buy in to one singular goal, and that is the most important goal. It's not what your batting average is or how many home runs you hit. It's, did we win games? How are we getting better? And how are we striving to be champions? And I think that sometimes is the hardest thing. You have people from all different backgrounds, right? And now with the Riveters and being on the women's side as well, absolutely no difference at all, right? It's, you have to get a group of people, generally young people sometimes, to not think about next year or what their next career move is, but to think about right now and what are you doing to get better to help this team win. What if you don't get a lot of playing time? What kind of attitude do you have? Do you believe in what the team's doing? You have a better attitude. We've had, in past years, bad attitudes. We've had players that have come in, expected to play really well, score a lot of goals, be major contributors. Very quickly, the attitude wasn't there, right? They were the kind of last one to show up to start practice. They were the first one to jump in the car and leave. They didn't believe.
They weren't special.
They weren't a part of it. They weren't, right? And they didn't want to be held to that standard. And I think that's a difference I've seen in championship teams, whether it's been baseball or football or Penn State going to the Rose Bowl. Those teams, all of those people believed in where they were trying to get to.
And you know what? I want to chime in on that because that's culture. I mean, ultimately,
Sure.
It's culture. But again, you can have a championship culture and not win. But that is what it is because only one team can win. But interestingly enough, you can also have a losing culture. And I think a lot of teams and a lot of professional, sports teams have fallen into that. And it's here we go again. Did you guys never really had that culture? Was that culture ever in the Pittsburgh Riverhounds organization?
Yes. I got here in August of 22. And it certainly didn't exist then, and hopefully has not existed since then. Previous to that, I think you'd have to go back, and you have to check my history on this, but probably 2018, there was a coaching change. Previous to that, I think the Riverhounds struggled. They were in different leagues. They struggled for consistency. They struggled in coaching leadership. They'd have a coach for 2 years. They'd make a change. They wouldn't play well. They'd find somebody else. And so there's a lot of inconsistency. In 2018, 2019, Bob Lilly comes in, now over 400 wins, one of the most winningest professional soccer coaches in the U.S., and really turned things around. I think he deserves a lot of credit for what he did. And a part of that was culture. A part of that was sort of creating that belief of what was important to the team. I think since then we've started to even evolve from that, and so it's not just winning at all costs. I think it's a group of people, right? And people all have different, motivations and desires. So how do you make it a great culture and great experience for all the individual people to then help them tie together to get to that goal? And so what's their role? What's their part of it? How do they feel like it's important?
Which is what my book's all about. Lead from the heart out. That's another.
There you go.
That's a hell of a plug.
I always say pull the same rope at the same time, same direction, you'll get a special result.
Right.
And that's what you guys
Right.
did. Now, who were some of your role models growing up? I mean, everybody talks about, I know I've had several in the business world. Number one, my parents. In the business world, in the sports world, who were some of your role models that you studied and motivated and inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, parents, not for everybody, but certainly is an easy answer for me. My parents are both teachers, but both very hardworking. My dad was a coach, a high school coach. Never coached me directly in high school. He was I grew up in just south of York, Pennsylvania. He was a Baltimore County and Baltimore City coach, but had a lot of success, state titles and all those kind of things. But I learned sort of that work at the love of sports. I think I got from him, right, and watching games together and kind of watching them a little bit different than just a fan. And then certainly work ethic and he was just a hardworking guy. And so I got a lot of that. As I got into high school and was playing sports, I was the hustle guy, right? I wasn't always the most talented, but I was the hustle guy, and I got a lot of playing time and ended up playing college football because of that. I think, I look at people I didn't meet, like people like Don Mattingly, who to me growing up in the 80s was, he wasn't didn't have the best stats. He's unfortunately probably not getting in the Hall of Fame, but I just love the way he carried himself and sort of how he approached the game and kind of no nonsense. Like that,
should be a manager, right? He should have been the Yankee manager, but that's another story.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he's had his shots here and there, but yeah, it was nice to see him almost get a world championship
He's with,
last year.
He's with Philly now. He just got the
I didn't even see
bench
that.
coach
Okay,
Philly,
well, he's even closer. I'm going to have to get out there. I actually was at the baseball winter meetings one year when I worked in baseball, and my boss at the time knew that I was just a huge Don Mattingly fan, and he was there, and it was like he's on the other side of the hotel. So I was just sprinting to try to get
what
there.
What year were you at the winter meetings?
I was there probably 10 years, but I don't remember which year that was.
Okay, because I used to go every year.
Yeah,
well, from 2001. I'm still with the same company, but I don't have to go as much.
Yeah, and the winter meetings have certainly changed. I would have been there a lot, like 2003 through probably 2012, something like that. In that 9 or 10 year period, I was there a lot. So a lot of times in the hotel lobbies.
Yep.
So there's players like that you looked up to. Me, it was always sports. So it was always sort of those people. When you get into college, I got to play for Joe Walton. I thought Joe Walton was a good local kid from Beaver Falls, and same kind of thing. Had the work ethic, expected us to come ready to play, which was a change from high school. At high school, you got to be at workouts and you got to do this and you got to do that. I expected that to be even worse in college. There wasn't a lot of that mandatory stuff. If you didn't do it, you weren't going to play. And they would see it in the first few days. If you came into camp and you weren't in shape, I always thought, we're not doing any sprints. If you're not in shape, you're not going to play. Right. So I kind of learned, you've got to take preparation on yourself, right? It has to be important to you. It's not I have to do it. It's you should want to do it, right? Because you want to be better. So I think it's a lot of coaches like that over the years, certainly my parents, and then just, looking up to players and especially people that have been successful. A guy that I worked with in baseball, Todd Parnell, he goes by Parney. Anybody that can go by one name is a celebrity, right? He ran the club in Altoona for a few years. Then he's been in Richmond. They're building a new stadium down there. Just a sort of legend in minor league baseball. Same kind of thing. He taught me a lot of things to do, but he also taught me some of the things not to do too, right? Like your family's important, and so make time for that. Sure. I think I learned some lessons there along the way too.
Good, Steve.
No, I want to just kind of pick up on all that because you are at the top and you guys got it. Now, to your point, you got to go back. Okay, season's over. We got to get ready for next year. I know this. I'm not asking you when you're leaving, but I'm saying is now that you've established that standard, is it one of these? I want to see this consistently for a while. I mean, what are your expectations going forward now?
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, listen, personally, 25 years in sports, I've been all over and worked for large organizations, small organizations. I'm personally not looking to go anywhere. I think we have a really exciting 10 or 15 or 20-year horizon. Not only the Riverhounds and the Rivers.
I'm not chasing
you
up.
No, I know.
But I want to make that very clear.
But soccer in the U.S., right? And we're
Right.
going to see it this summer with the World Cup.
Right.
And I think you'll see some fever there, and I think we're going to benefit from that.
Yep.
The expansion of Highmark Stadium is a really exciting project.
What does it seat now?
5,000,
Oh, that's
and
a
it'll
big
go up
one
to
then.
15,000,
Well, that's
right?
a big one,
And
yeah.
the drawings are fantastic, and so we're getting pretty close to starting to, move that forward. The USL is introducing Division One. So for those of you that don't know soccer, Division One is the same level as the MLS, right? It's not we don't play. It's not a developmental system like minor league baseball would be. Right now, the Riverhounds play in the USL Championship, which is Division Two. So this is set up just how Europe is set up. The USL will add a Division One. We will compete with the MLS, not directly on the field. My guess is we won't play each other a whole lot. But then
Do you real quick? I'm curious. Do you see that ever happening?
2028. I mean, the process is already moving forward.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, we've already applied for Division One status, so we will have to be awarded that.
But actually playing MLS teams or just playing at the level of?
Playing at the level
Okay.
of, right. And so I think the thing that's going to make us a little bit different is you will now have Division I, Division II, and the USL League One already exists, which is Division III, and we will put promotion relegation in, which has never been done in the U.S. And so I think for the purists of soccer globally, all of a sudden it gives a U.S. product that is what they know and what they understand. We'll certainly compete against the MLS. The U.S. Open Cup is a great way to do that. We beat NYCFC last year. We beat the Columbus Crew 2 years ago and New England Revolution 2 years ago. So, I think we can compete with the MLS. This will give us more resources to do it.
I'm dying to ask you a couple questions now because a lot of folks don't understand that relegation.
Right.
You have to work your way. You have to win your way into the top league. Explain that real quick.
Yeah, and I think U.S. fans are finally ready for it because of shows like Ted Lasso, because they talk about it in Ted Lasso, and Welcome to Wrexham. I think shows like that have started for U.S. fans to understand how that works. But it's not the U.S. model. You start at whatever league you start at. If you're coming in new, you'd start out at the lowest league. And if you win your league, then you are promoted to the league ahead of you, right? And for most teams, you'll start at the bottom, right? Because you're not going to have the same quality of player. You're going to have to build that up. Now, Wrexham has been promoted 5 or 6 times now. Now, they've also thrown a lot of money behind the scenes at those players to catch up. Most teams can't do that. Because where we are is at Division II, we'll be able to apply, as which we've done, to Division I immediately. So we expect to start at Division I. So we will not win our way into Division I, but we will absolutely have a risk of losing our way down to Division II. And that is smaller revenue, less media attention. So there's a lot to gain by being in the first. And it creates more matches of consequence, right? You're not playing for a championship necessarily. You're playing to survive, to stay in the division.
And I see that a lot. Premier League, Serie A is good. When you see these teams at the bottom, and if they don't win, they know where they know what's happening. You're gone.
Every match is important, right?
Let's talk international. How does that going to play now in international friendlies?
Well, I think there's some questions still to be answered about what Division I does for the USL. Does it include CONCACAF status and allow you to get into the sort of global playoffs? I think we expect that it will, which is something the MLS enjoys and the other leagues have. That at Division II, we do not have the ability to do that right now. I think it also creates a very viable feeder system for Europe. And different than most sports in the U.S., where the U.S. is the top of the mountain, the best players in the world don't want to come to the U.S. They don't want to play in the MLS. They want to play in the Premier League.
Is that solely a money decision, or is that a prestige thing?
I think it's a prestige thing, right? And money's certainly a part of it.
I mean, they coaxed Beckham out of there years ago. And who was the other? What's the one now?
Messi.
Thank you.
Yeah, but the MLS it has some young people, but also has a lot of sort of the Premier League players at the end of their career that are playing for a paycheck. The USL has now sort of been seen as a better path for young soccer players to get to Europe. The MLS will typically sign these 5-year academy contracts. You're locked in for 5 years. You get 2 years into it, hey, I'm ready to go to Europe. This team wants me. Nope, sorry, you're staying here. They want him in the MLS. Where we are encouraging, come here, we'll put you on a stage, and we will send you over to Germany or England or wherever.
Now, how does that help you guys?
So we can participate in transfer fees, which is the transfer industry is a $6 billion industry. Basically, our players are assets.
I told you I picked the wrong sport. Go ahead.
That's right. Our players are assets to us. So let's say we find a 6-year-old dribbling a soccer ball on the field. We can put them into our academy. We can develop them, move them into our reserve team and then our first team. Put them on a stage, train them, and then ultimately we can transfer them to another team. The player gets a contract. We get a transfer fee. Transfer fees range from, in our league, probably $50,000 to $1.5 million.
Wow, I didn't think the numbers were that high. I'm not saying to be insulting, but I mean,
they've grown year after year.
I don't want to say,
year.
I apologize for this. I don't want to say I thought USL was a minor league, but I did for years. I did.
Right.
Because,
I can understand
because MLS seems to get it all comes down to TV exposure.
Right.
So they got the exposure. Okay, that's the major player. But you're not on par financially, but that's a lot of money for, I won't even call it a minor league team.
Sure.
But for another league in the U.S. in soccer, I'm like, that's pretty good. I didn't think it was that high, to be honest with you.
Yeah, and it grows every single year because of the quality of players. Because young players are now realizing, I could get stuck if I go to the MLS.
Right.
If I want to end up in Europe, I go to the USL. And so you've seen better talent coming to the USL. You've seen a focus, certainly from teams in the USL, on development, on finding those players. We actually have roster structures that allow us to hold more roster spots for kids under 18. When I was in California, we signed a 14-year-old. He was playing in Scotland by the time he was 16. Wow. Now, it helped that he had dual citizenship because of a grandparent in England, and there's some things like that. But we create this pathway that hasn't existed. So you're a kid growing up in Pittsburgh. 10 years ago, how were you getting to England if you were a great soccer player? You were Christian Pulisic, you were going somewhere else and then going to Germany because you weren't doing it here. Now there's an infrastructure in place to allow teams to do that. So once we put Division I in, quite frankly, we think over the long run, we have a better model that lasts even longer than what MLS has right now.
Do you see MLS changing their structure based on this? Or do you think they're like, no, this is all we've got?
I don't ever see MLS and USL working
That's kind
together,
of where I was going
right?
with.
I think that will be a challenge. We'd certainly be open to it. I don't think the MLS would ever be open to it. I expect,
and they have the major markets is the biggest issue right there.
Right. I expect they will have to change because we will force them to change. That's what I expect to happen. Now, is that 10 years from now? Is that 20 years from now? I don't know. Maybe somebody else's problem to figure out.
There's one pie, and you have a lot of pro teams, a couple college teams, and you're all trying to get a piece of that pie. Mm-hmm. What are the Riverhounds doing besides winning? And now you're going to add another 10,000 seats to the stadium. What are you doing to get more of the piece of that pie?
For fans?
Yes.
Because I guess there's two sides of that, right? There's the talent side
there's
on youth soccer.
Yeah.
Right?
I could see both of them.
I'm talking about fans and sponsorship. Money.
Yep. I think fans, the word that always comes to mind is accessibility. We're a very accessible brand. We're accessible financially. You can come to games. Our average ticket price is probably $18 to $20, right? You can bring your whole family. We're probably competing more with a night out to dinner.
That's a beer at the Steeler game.
Right. And so we're competing maybe with a night out at the movies or just a night out for dinner with your family. But now you get to come have 3 hours of entertainment, enjoy yourself, have this beautiful view on the river with, skyline. So I think making sure that the pricing stays accessible is important. I also think our players are accessible. So we do a post-game autograph session.
Yeah.
Just imagine one of the other teams trying to do this. And I understand all the reasons why they can't. Our team, win or lose, rain or shine, stays on that field after a game. We let all the kids come down on the field. Mm-hmm. Everybody lines up, and those players sign autographs and take pictures and smile and create memories for those kids. And so when you think about, again, 20 or 30 years down the road, those kids are our fans down the road, and then their kids are. And so it takes time to build that. But I think that accessibility, getting out into the community, supporting different community organizations, being available, creating a women's team, that's something that really has tried to exist in a few other sort of areas previously, but not really on a major scale. We launched the women's team last year and pretty much sold out every game, and we had 5,000 people. And it was a completely different crowd than a Riverhounds game. You would think, half the Riverhounds crowd, they're just going to buy tickets and come. Completely different, right? So many little girls that the saying, you have to see it to be it, right? So many little girls that got to see these players as semi-professionals basically, and get to meet them and get their autographs. That inspires those little girls. Sure. So I think making sure that we're continuing to find moments like that, I think that's how we ultimately end up sort of continuing to carve out our niche in Western Pennsylvania. It is a challenge, right?
Heck yeah.
But I also, we talked about sort of the demographic a little bit. Our fans skew much younger. And I joke sometimes that if you're looking for, the 60-plus Yinzer, they're probably at the Steelers game. But the 29-year-old robotics engineer, they're at a Riverhounds game, right? Or the young families are at Riverhounds game. So I think we're going to continue to lean into that and make sure that it's just a great night out.
Does it help if the other teams are struggling?
Sure, probably. I certainly would not root for them to struggle. I mean, it killed me last night to see the Steelers go down. I think it's good for the city when the teams do well. Mm-hmm. Hosting that playoff game last night by the Steelers created a lot of economic development for the North Shore and even downtown, for bars and restaurants, hotels, people coming in from out of town.
The draft is going to do that.
The draft is coming in. I mean, the Penguins, creating play. It's a good thing for Pittsburgh, and it gets people excited about sports and entertainment. Now, competition-wise, again, because the Steelers do well doesn't mean we can't.
Right.
I think that the crowd's just a little bit different. The fans are a little bit different. But if people are frustrated, I can imagine where, hey, maybe I want to try something different. And so that probably does help us a little bit, but we certainly wouldn't root for it.
Does the draft help you guys out at all? Because of
absolutely.
All the people, in what way?
I think it helps out the entire region, basically. Yeah. So we are just outside the draft footprint from the NFL.
Okay.
But where we are on the South Shore there, we're able to still create programming around the draft. So we are working on programming right now that'll be an alternative. You can't get to the North Shore, or you don't have the right ticket or the right pass, or you can't afford to get down there. We're going to create some concert inventory. So we'll potentially do a concert Wednesday night as a kickoff to the draft. We'll be doing some sort of family events Thursday during the day, Friday during the day. We'll let the draft have their moment Thursday night and Friday night. We play at home Saturday night after the draft, and we're actually working on a NFL connected flag football charity event Saturday during the day. So we'll have a very busy draft week. We kind of carved our schedule around it to make sure that we were prepared to have a home game and be available during that week. So I think it's certainly going to help us. And then it helps, again, the families and people that maybe can't get into the NFL side of it, but they still want to feel like they're a part of it. Some of the sponsors that potentially can't pay those dollars, they can do something with us. So there's a lot of opportunities there for people.
Real quick, but it's not going to be quick.
Okay.
When I say quick, it's a very lengthy question. Let me talk about it. Successful people aren't successful by accident. There's always a little bit of luck. And I don't know why. There's something, and I've said this a few times, and it's stuck in my head, was the Ray Boom Boom Mancini interview we did. And he talked about that there were guys that were in the gym that would never get out of the gym. Great boxers were in the gym, they'd never get out of the gym. And there's always that something that you needed to put them over. You're obviously successful. What is it, if you're giving someone else, career advice, personal advice, it doesn't even about sports, but what is it makes you successful, just generally speaking?
I think, and hopefully our staff would say this, I think one of my strengths probably is that I'm a collaborator, right? I don't feel like it has to be my way. I don't feel like I know better. Now, don't ask my kids, because they will. That'll be a completely different answer.
And they should listen
That'll
to
be
you.
a completely different answer. But I think for most people, whether it's sponsors or fans or our staff, I'm a good collaborator. I like to listen and understand. One of the things we did when I first got here and continue to do is a lot of fan surveying, right? There's a lot of things fans would tell us to do that were not super expensive, that weren't super difficult. Nobody just knew to do it. So as soon as we started to get that feedback, great idea, let's make that change. And we made a bunch of little changes, and it made huge differences. Now we've been able to invest a little bit more and do a little bit more. But so I think being able to sort of get out of your own way, not have to be in charge all the time, not have to be right all the time, to be able to listen and take ideas. We are at the point now, and this is the way it should be, if we're going to continue to grow, that half the ideas that we do know aren't mine. Right? That half the ideas that we move forward with aren't mine. And when I first got here, I had to take a lot of my experience and say, let's do this, let's do this. I don't have to do that anymore. Now our staff is bringing ideas, and I'm like, I would have never even thought about that. That's a great idea. Let's absolutely do that. I still don't know if I'm on board with the Taylor Swift night, but I think we're gonna work it out. It's there's a marriage coming up this summer, so we got to be prepared for it. Seize the moment. So I think probably, and there's a lot of traits, and I think everybody sort of uses those traits different ways. Certainly, I'm passionate about what I do. I do love sports, and I am passionate about sports. I've probably lost some of my passion as a spectator for sports, but I'm passionate about watching fans have a great time. Like, that's what really gets me excited.
Ooh, I want to ask you on that. That's an interesting one, because whenever it's your job, does it lose the luster?
Yeah, unfortunately, it probably does. Now, there are moments, right? Saquon Barkley, scoring a couple touchdowns in the Rose Bowl against USC and standing on the sideline and watching that. Like, okay, those moments stick with you a little bit. Winning a championship. I've forgotten more pitches than I can remember from minor league baseball. And McCutchen was 18 when I was in Altoona. Wow. We had Joe Mauer, come through with the Twins in New Britain. So you get to see all these players, and believe me, and you know this, great players like that stick out at almost every level. Andrew McCutchen is an 18-year-old in AA, clearly was the best player on the field. And so you remember moments like that or players like that, but the rest of it all kind of blends together, to be honest. And again, I don't necessarily think about, how to score more goals. That's what our soccer people do. I think about how to make the fan experience better. And that's really what I enjoy now. I've had some great interactions with fans, and that's been sort of at the real crux of it, has been, having that relationship and sort of watching them become fans or continue being fans, and just how much it means to them.
Steve asked you earlier, what's next? And you basically said, I'm good where I'm at.
Yep.
And Jim Valvano used to say, don't mess with happy. I've had a few opportunities over the years to coach overseas or coach different spots here in the United States, and I've turned them down. People think I'm either lying or I'm crazy, and I'm neither. I like being home. I like watching my daughter's events. I like spending time with my wife. And it sounds like you're not going to mess with Happy. You're just going to continue to build this organization to a top level, keep it at top level. Am I right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, if we were stagnant, because that's not who I am, right? I'm always kind of thinking about you win a championship and what's next. I'm always like, that's something I actually have to work on sometimes, is just enjoying the success sometimes. But, if we were stagnant, I think that would probably change my mind. Tuffy Schallenberger has been a fantastic owner. He's great to work with. He has vision. He's creative. So it's nice to work with an owner who really is at the core of all this. For him, it's about the soccer. I mean, he really wants to win, and he's really poured a lot into it. So having an owner like that is fantastic. Seeing the growth of our fan base, men's and women, and having the opportunity to create a women's team, awesome. Expand the stadium. We're working on expanding AHN Montour to add another couple fields there because lacrosse and rugby, we do grass volleyball, we have wrestling, we have boxing. We do 4 boxing matches now. So, just being able to be a part of that and then do it in an area that I went to college, have a lot of friends here. I'm from the York area, but, it's still kind of home, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
The kids love, where they're at in school and participating in sports and all the things that they do. My daughter was just accepted to Duquesne to their 5-year physician's assistant program. Very excited. She's, been working for that for a long time. So she's not going anywhere. So I expect to be here for a long time.
That's great to hear. And again, you're happy. It's not somebody else's, like somebody would say to me, a few people, why did you go with that organization? Because I didn't want to leave here. I like it here. Oh, you're crazy. All right. No, I'm not crazy. I know exactly what I wanted to do. I remember Clint Hurdle, several years ago, we were playing in this golf tournament. I said, well, yesterday was the last game of the season, so I guess you're done. He said, no, I got to go to instructional league tomorrow. 10 months out of the year. That would not have been something that I would want to do.
It's a trade-off sometimes, right?
Big trade-off. Trade-off. So I congratulate you on everything that you're doing, and I'm very happy for you personally. And that team, I really enjoyed watching it, going to a couple games. It was fun. And watching that championship run was really exciting. And again, I appreciate your kindness and having us as guests and all that. It was very nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to say this, but I think 2026 will be an even better year. I can't wait to have you back.
Well, I'll be there. I'm sure it will be. And I mean this with all my heart. When they won, I was happy for Jeff. Because he's just a good guy. And you know me, I'm picky about people.
Blushing.
Thank you. No, it's the truth. It's the truth. And like I said, our shows are your shows. Players, coaches, whenever you want somebody on.
Yeah, that would be great.
You let us know, and it's your mic.
Some of them, I don't know if we'll be able to get them off. Some of them just like to talk and talk and talk.
All right. That's all right. And you know what? I think it's good to be on because it gives the fans. I'm a big believer in, there's many athletes that I looked up to growing up. And it wasn't just because they were good at what they did. It was the type of people they were.
Sure.
And I wanted people to know who you were. It's good to let the fans know who your players are. Mm-hmm. It's good that you guys have autograph sessions so they can see the person up, close and say hello to them and talk to them and so on and so forth. And then they'll have that moment, like you said, that's my guy, that's my team. And that's very important instead of, standing far away from these guys. And I don't like that. I think it's good to let people know who you are.
I think that's why the word accessibility always comes back for me. I think that's who we're trying to be. And actually, our players all have really fascinating stories.
See, that's just it, stories.
Right. It's not so much that I went to high school, I went to college, I got drafted, I played in the minor leagues, They all have different pathways. Some have played in World Cup competition. They played on their country's national teams. Some have played in the MLS. Right. Some haven't. Some have been drafted. They all have a different story, and they're from all over the world. And so it is, you get that mix again, which is one of the challenges of trying to sort of set everybody in one direction. But it would be great to have some of them on because they just have fascinating stories. They're great to hear.
And I'm a huge boxing fan. And I remember watching the Buster Douglas-Mike Tyson fight in 1990. And my mom had recently passed and all that. And Buster, I knew who Buster was, but I didn't know who he was. And he started talking about his mother. And he started crying. He said, that's my guy. To this day, he's my guy. He's going to be there next week. But, you root for that guy. Because one thing, even though the media tries to separate us all, one thing we all have in common, we've all been through some adversity.
Oh, of
and
course.
They want to hear stories. That soccer player had this happen. Well, that happened to me. he made it through. That's my guy.
Right.
And I think it's important. You said the key word, stories. They're great at what they do, but they're also human. They've also had loss. They've had struggles. They just didn't go to high school, college. Here I am.
Right.
Yeah,
And it's I think about this more on the women's side, but it's true on the men's side too. If you can see it, you can be it. Yeah. I think Robbie Mertz, right? Upper St. Clair, was in Atlanta's system in the MLS, played for the Riverhounds, went to Atlanta, didn't work out, came back, and has made just a really fantastic career for himself. And
a bobblehead.
And a bobblehead. Scored the only goal
you've
we
made
scored.
it when you got a bobblehead.
Yeah, exactly. Scored the only goal that we scored all of the playoffs.
Isn't that crazy?
At home, which was great in front of a packed house. So I think even kids in Pittsburgh playing soccer, which Pittsburgh hasn't typically been thought of as a hotbed for soccer. It's not Southern California. But when you look at that and go, hey, that guy went to Upper St. Clair and he made it. And you have some other players that are up and coming that are coming through our system. A couple of our former academy players, we've signed to contracts on the pro team this year that'll be back. They went to college and have now come back. There's some players that are coming up. We had a junior 2 years ago, a junior in high school on the team, right? He didn't play a ton, but he trained with the team. Wow. He was there. And it was a local kid. So creating those stories for people that they can understand, or especially for players on the men's and the women's side, that it's here. There's a pathway here that, if you work hard, you can take advantage of it. So I think that's important.
That's great. Well, again, I'm happy for you, happy for the team, and wish you continued success. And I know you guys will even one up last year.
That's right.
Sure.
I hope. Yeah, sure. I know. You get a star every time you win a championship in soccer. So hopefully we'd run out of room to put the stars on the badge.
You never have enough stars.
That's right. That's right.
Steve. No. Okay. Well, again, Jeff, we really appreciate you taking the time, and we look forward to speaking to you again and your coaches, your staff, your players, whoever you want. Open house. It's all yours.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on again. Happy New Year. Hope everyone listening, and hope you guys, of course, have a great 2026. And open invitation to Highmark Stadium for the Pittsburgh Riverhounds and the Pittsburgh Riveters this summer.
All right. Well, we appreciate it. We'll do a show there one of these days.
I said we'll be
Got
there.
it.
Yeah. You know what? I like that. We'll make that a point.
We'll do a show.
We'll come over.
We could do that. Yep.
All right. Okay. Well, Steve, thank you as always. Thank you to our great audience. And Jeff, thank you. And as always, thank you, Mom and Pop. Talk to you guys soon.
Thank you for listening to Talking Business and Life with Claudio Relsano and Steve Mancini. Tune in next week for more impactful business and life experiences with Claudio and Steve.